It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we're zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer question. And that is, how can you really spot the red flags when you are really in it too thick, too deep with someone who is a malignant narcissist, someone who is manipulative, someone who is deceptive, and with these qualities is cunning and sly, and is sort of kind of putting one past you, underneath your nose, so to speak. And looking back, perhaps you can kind of see the red flags or the warning signs or the indicators that something was awry, something was askew. Had you not paid attention to that, perhaps if you had indeed paid attention to that, perhaps you would be in a different position today. Your life would take a different course, or you'd have a different sense of strength and courage to really move forward and then let some of these people go. And so we're going to really zoom in and focus in on identifying the red flags. So you can either see it in retrospect or moving forward. And it's so very important to understand what red flags are, or indicators or tips to identifying these people, because then you know very clearly where your boundaries are. You know your strength. You know your self-worth. You have then a sense of standard, and your standards are determined by your self-worth. It's like the law of the lid. You will only rise as far as you believe you can go. So if you believe you can only go so far in life, then you will. That's as far as you will go. That's the law of the lid. I'm not sure if it was Malcolm Gladwell who coined that phrase, but there's a great book about that in business, really, when it talks about how people will only rise as far as their self-limiting beliefs. And so we're really going to see how the interplay of that, sort of dances together, how that interacts with highly manipulative people, and such as those who are malignant narcissists, or even more severe, the psychopathic antisocial people. But before we get started, I just want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently donated to the channel. Thank you so much for your donations, your contributions, stepping up to the plate, letting me know that this content is sort of hitting a home run with you all, and we're making sense here, and this is really helping you sort through some things effectively and with immediate results. That's really the goal and the objective of putting together the channel. It is my passion to help those who have been emotionally manipulated, who have been deceived, who have been conned, who have been used. And so really it is my passion to really help others sort through this so they can move on rapidly and moving full throttle, moving forward after these sort of monstrous relationships. And so thank you so much. And yes, if the channel has been a positive influence and you'd like to interact and participate here, please do go to the PayPal Donate Now button here on the About page at Peace and Harmony. You can make a donation and give back to the channel. It really does help keep the channel alive. It makes it very worthwhile for me. It keeps me motivated to keep bringing forth the content, to keep, coming up here day in and day out as best I can, to deliver based on people's inquiries, their comments, the things that they share. That's really how I mold and really tailor my content to those people and what you're specifically going through. And of course, I have developed a lot of tools and content and knowledge surrounding this issue. So it's an honor and a privilege to be able to assist you and discuss this oftentimes very perturbing and difficult relationship issue, and it makes it very difficult to kind of move through your life. And so we really want to focus in and zoom in right now on the red flags of the malignant narcissist. How can you kind of see where your boundaries are? How can you kind of sense where your standards are? Looking back, how could you have applied boundaries and your standards? Let's give some examples. So a red flag of a malignant narcissist or someone who is psychopathic is there is a lack of empathy. This is the hallmark trait. This is the key. This is the one of the most really defining elements of this character in this personality disorder is a lack of empathy. So they might put on a show. They might put on a facade that they're interested in you or that they care. And so it's very important to know what this looks like and feels like versus really what genuine empathy is, genuine caring, because genuine empathy and genuine caring is defined by respect. Respect of your boundaries and respect of what that person has been through and then their standards. So it's an acknowledgement of others as a person and their personhood. It is defined, empathy means you have the ability to sense the feelings and respect them of others. You're able to listen to them and not be threatened. You're able to understand what someone is going through and not feeling like they're taking, the shining light away from you. They're not taking the stage away from you. You don't feel threatened by giving someone an ear, giving someone a shoulder to cry on. You don't feel that you're going to, there's a balance, there's a give and take, and it's a love is patient and love is kind, as they say. So the relationship is defined by a patience. So it's endearing. There's not this up and down, radical extreme sort of situation where it's like, you didn't give me this or you give me that. There's not the tit for tat. There's not the always sort of keeping a record mark, hack marks on a tablet, what did you give me, etc. And so really the red flags is a lack of empathy. They're not able to really be sensitive to you in specific ways. So you feel that there's a lack of presence with this person. They're not really there. They're not really there for you. They're kind of, it's all a show, a sham, and there is not a sense of true caring, especially in the psychopathic realm. They do not have the ability to love others. They just don't. They don't have that in their wheelhouse. They don't have that in their personality traits. But they can be very good at being pretentious. So they overdo it. They will exaggerate or overcompensate for their abilities. So for example, if they're not very loving, they don't have the ability to love is really to honor somebody. And it's a certain feeling that you have. It's a certain feeling of appreciation, and there's a quality of cherishing this person, and you realize kind of their humanness, their personhood. You realize you have a sensitivity and a fondness and affection. So there's a genuine empathy, a genuine caring, and it's you when you feel this, you don't feel threatened by giving it, and you don't feel threatened by receiving it. So when someone has empathy for you, this oftentimes is very difficult for people who have been through very traumatic, manipulative relationships, is they have trouble receiving true empathy when someone is really there for them, really listening, really has a heart, is giving them respect. They're like, whoa, I don't think we can maintain this. Maybe I'm going to freak out and sabotage this. So the red flags is firstly, namely, the lack of empathy. And you'll very much see it indicative when someone is not very present. You don't feel that they're able to slow down their own life. They're too absorbed, too self-absorbed. They don't give you eye contact. They're not there really, they're either, chronically late. This is a lack of respect, to be chronically late, or not call you when they say they're going to call you. Not being, or emailing you at very inappropriate times, which is more self-oriented and distracting to you. They're not there for you really in your time of need. And most indicative is in your time of illness. When you are sick, you are not feeling well, you are laid out, and this person is like avoiding you like the plague. As if like, oh, I don't want to see that. They don't want to see, when someone's down. They don't have that empathy, that compassion. In fact, oftentimes they're very turned off by people who are sick, by people who are quote unquote needy in this way, when it's actually the narcissist who is needy. It is their constant neediness and clinginess to others for attention that is really indicative and really sort of shines through their insecurity. They constantly need it to be about them. They just don't have the empathy. They're too hollowed out. They're too vapid, meaning they're just too empty to really sort of care about you. It's an ingenuine, gratuitous caring. Gratuitous means, well, I'll just give you a box of chocolates because it's Valentine's Day, but it doesn't really mean like, honey, I know you really love chocolates like and flowers, and like that really turns you on, like I'm going to give that to you. It's more just like, in passing. It's more just gratuitous. It's just, it doesn't have a lot of meaning or sentience or sort of, real genuineness to it. There's a lack of empathy. And so, in your time of need, they're very much turned off by your desires for commitment. They can be very commitment-phobic. They have a constantly, like a viewer made an awesome comment, and that was that, these individuals really go after your free will. And we're going to really focus in on that because that is an amazing insight. But the red flag is namely this lack of empathy. They don't care about your needs. They don't inquire about how you're doing. They don't, drop what they're doing. They're always doing something. They're not only the busybodies of the world, but they are sort of the, in the covert narcissist, it's a gratuitous, how are you? It's very superficial. It's just like a brief, brush off the surface, and really that's all they know about you. And there comes a time in relationships where you want to spill your guts out. You want to be able to have a heart-to-heart. You want to be able to go on a rant. You want to be able to cry. You want to be able to laugh. You want to be able to go, ooh, ah, check that out. And really kind of be yourself, let it flow. And you'll find that with a red flag, another red flag with a malignant narcissist or a psychopath is you really can't let it flow for you. When you get into your own flow, usually they're going to try to truncate or sabotage it, or tell you they're not going to be interested. There's something you might ask them a question about something that truly fascinates you, and they're like, yeah, why are you asking that? They're just going to kind of like shut you down when you begin to develop your fascinations, your interests. So then the red flag then becomes absorbed or digested as, you're more important in the relationship than I am. And so I'm negating my self-importance to keep the relationship going. So you then begin to hollow yourself out in order to accept more of this person's selfishness. And so it creates sort of a cavern or a chasm, deep within you where you just sort of shut yourself down, especially when you get repeated reprimands for sharing yourself. So reprimands meaning a sort of punishment. Another red flag is, they're not there in your time of need, and they sort of punish you when you're kind of getting into your groove or laughing or joking or something that's unique and original about you. You can be very affectionate or very funny or very serious or have an intellectual side, and when you try to bring that out, they're wanting to shut it down because you're getting into your personal power, and you threaten, if you can think of, an X on the stage, you're stealing their spotlight. And so the malignant narcissist, meaning abnormally, malignant meaning if you had a malignant skin cell, and that baby is, skin cancer, that is a malignancy, like a skin malignancy. That means it's an abnormal aberration of cells. It's unhealthy. It can turn cancerous. So malignancy, when we talk about a malignant narcissist, it is very severe, and they, because of their lack of empathy and their sense of entitlement, then they will then not really sort of feel bad for exploiting you. So they also, another red flag is they tend to exploit others, meaning taking the best from you, getting the best out of you. You might be the best cook. You might be the best lover. You might be the best decorator. You might be great at taking people to their doctor's appointments, their school, taking care of their kids. You might be, you might have a lot of different strengths. You might have a lot of culture, a lot of friends, a lot of contacts. And they're getting the best of you. They're basically, using you, for lack of a better word, or playing you for a specific amount of time. And then when they reach a specific junction in their life, then you see the devalue and discard. So the love bombing phase, if you look back, it's rampant with these red flags. The fact that they were perhaps too clingy, too needy in specific aspects of the relationship. They were always there. You felt always wanted. You were on cloud 57. I mean, they were taking you out. You were going to their place. They were going to yours. They just spoiled you rotten. It was like a fantasy, or, in all different settings. This is where you become, the lines become blurred. Your boundaries become blurred. They begin to sort of take you over, but you're interpreting it in a positive manner because of the sort of positive accolades you're getting from the relationship. Whether it's love, affection, the feeling of being cared for. This could have been a parent, so you feel the fact that you can have, some sort of semblance of shelter and peace for you to live in. So you will do just whatever it is to pacify. It's like putting a pacifier in their mouth. You literally have to, keep feeding them all this information about them so that they just, are sucking on you as supply. So it is a red flag when then they exploit you, meaning, give me the 3-hour back scratch. Give me, the 4-hour lasagna that it took you to make. Clean and care for my house that took you, all sorts of time to pay for. Your home, getting it decorated. Giving them a place to live, a place to crash, a place to spend the weekend. You're making room for them. This is all how it goes. This is the progress, the course that is charted from these relationships. And then so you're literally like carrying them on your back after the love bombing phase. You can oftentimes see that very exploitative, meaning they're getting the best out of you financially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, physically, to the point where you've got like one little drop left, one little ounce left, until you say, I'm breaking down. And then you feel like you're the crazy one. And then that's when that person gives you the look like, well, you're not good enough. You don't have what it takes to please me. And then you feel that, what is wrong with me if I can never please another person? I've already gone to the ends of the earth, the ends of the cosmos to try to be here. So you feel like, what more do you want from me? And then the bickering takes place in these very unproductive relationships. When it's the tit for tat, and then it's getting really bad, and egos are getting bruised, and people are explaining and justifying and explaining themselves. Remember this, remember that, and you're just really trashing your own time. It's an exercise of futility. So this exploitation, where you feel like they got the best of you, is very much a hallmark or red flag. The fact that they're not there, the fact that they need specific things from you, whether it's excessive amounts of time, money, affection, caring for them in a specific way, hearing their sob stories, or just doing what they want to do. So you're like a companion. A narcissist might feel that their friends are quote unquote a buffer. In other words, it's a buffer for them to protect them against the loneliness that they feel. And so oftentimes it's actually the narcissist who is so needy that they are really developing these sort of supply relationships. And so it's really projected around where they're then projecting that you're too needy, you're not good enough. And then you begin that whole tirade of inner self, devaluing you. So you literally ingest that devaluation, and you begin to take it on as your own because you've been around it so much. When you're around a lot of this, you're going to take on the qualities and characteristics, the circadian rhythm of others. So if you're around the circadian rhythm of a lot of toxic others, then physiologically you're also going to feel that within. So that's why it's so important for you to extract yourself and, go no contact. Getting, away from them physically. Stop remembering how they feel, how they smell, the tone of their voice ringing in your ears. So that you can really separate yourself, your body and mind. You no longer have that body-mind connection to them. You're a separate being. You're a separate person. You've got separate cells, separate emotions, separate dreams that, to dream on. This will live on, like that great Celine Dion song, you will live on. It's very difficult to feel that when you're in the thick of it, but you will. You can do this. It's to recognize the red flags and to see then that these things were coming, but oftentimes it's because you wanted to sort of push them out of consciousness. The good old procrastination, the good old denial. So it's very important to understand why the tolerance was there, why the boundaries were lowered. It's often because of this enmeshment, because they sort of help themselves to you, and you're like, you became to value yourself as a person by the value that they had placed in you in the beginning. So it's just to say, will you value me? So once again, a relationship with a narcissist, I feel the core problem is that you're looking to them for your self-importance, your self-value. So if I love you, I will value myself based on my role in the relationship. So it's your value can't be, connected to this person. It can't be connected to anything outside of you. It has to be within. Your own self-esteem is based on internal self-reliance. It's not based on what someone thinks of you, what they say about you, their validation. Your self-esteem is within. So it's very important in healing through these malignant relationships is to realize part of the problem is to realize that in the germination and the growth of these relationships is to see that you then identified your self-worth and your self-value by how well you took care of them, or how well you related to them, or how good a source of supply you were. So it's like, once again, like we've been saying here for the longest, the problem is the external locus of control. So no matter where this started in your life, it's to say, okay, my value was placed outside of me in this person, and I felt it was reflected back. So it can be a spousal relationship, a lover relationship, and a boyfriend or a girlfriend, a parent, a coworker, a colleague, a boss. So you begin then to define yourself and your self-value by how, if you kind of win this person's affection by pleasing them. That's the whole dichotomy in dynamic that is really based on duplicity, which is based on, your self-value is not based on that. That's the lie that they will have you believe. So you're ever forever catering to them to maintain that self-valuation. So, but it is important to say, that your valuation is not based on that. Your evaluation is based on yourself being a loving, kind, caring human being, a separate and distinct, and it goes with you always. It's not defined by an external locus of control. It's not defined by another person. It's not defined by another object. It's not defined by a car. Because what if it was? If you had that external locus of control, what if that car is no longer there? What if that thing is no longer there? What if that person is no longer there? Where does your self-value go? Do you see then how your self-esteem becomes a constantly moving target? You have the instability. You have the anxiety. You have uncertainty permeating your days. You don't know which way is up, which way is down. You can't define your boundaries and your standards for yourself. It becomes very difficult to write your own path. It becomes very difficult for you to write your own plan. It becomes very difficult for you to write your own future if you have a constantly moving target by this person, and then they erupt in rage, or then there's the emotional abandonment. It's a constantly moving target, so it's complete and it becomes complete and utter chaos, and that's when the shutdown arises. You've got the PTSD, the complex PTSD. Your energy is not contained within you. It's sort of out there, and you're not defined. You don't feel that you exist in a very positive, happy manner. There's a lack of fulfillment. There's a wanting to right the wrongs. All this sort of stuff with this person. It is the wound then that's running your life rather than you running your life. So it is so important for you to acknowledge and validate the loves that you have and say, you know what? I love this. It doesn't matter if this person loves it or not. I don't care. I'm going to pursue my dreams now. You can only dream and move forward once you've identified the red flags and move beyond them. It's to say, whoa, I did see that out of the corner of my eye. I do remember they were not there at this time that I was sick. They did kind of scoff at me when I was wearing sweatpants. They didn't like me when everything was not perfect. They had such high standards which are unattainable, yet it's a double standard. They're not there for you in the ways that they want you to be. So it's like very unrealistic. It's a real set of double standards where their standards are so high for others, yet their standards don't even meet or match what they hold others accountable for. So they want others to do the work. And so this is also part of the problem with the narcissistic, is that they only feel that they should identify with people of special character or status. So they're kind of snub you past, acting like I'm the this and this. And so if they treat you this way, then perception is reality. So they're sort of banking on the fact that you're going to then perceive them as this high standard person. It's the old big hat, no cattle. They're trying to, walk like this, but yet, they're not the real deal. They're acting snub. They're acting very sort of entitled, but yet they haven't really, their results haven't matched really how they treat you. So they're really, unfounded mistreatment of others. So, and then defining, well, you're, whatever it is that they're making, it is not, it is just a projection of their insecurities. Do not take what they say at face value. That is so, one of the difficult things of moving forward is to say, how do I see my life through my own eyes and not be interpreted by how I'm perceived by them? If you're always living your life for the perception of others and trying to meet that, again, you're setting yourself up for failure. That's not how your happiness is ever going to be fulfilled. Is to say, I conform to my own standards. And you lose that self-consciousness. You don't care what others, how they define you, because it's irrelevant. It's inaccurate. They don't place the value on you. It is not conforming to their needs, because otherwise, you're just satisfying everybody else, and you don't have that internal locus of control. How you really sort of get relationships is when you find they begin to come to you once you have that internal locus of control and that internal positive self-valuation. And that cannot be had simultaneously when you're in a relationship with a narcissist. You cannot simultaneously have an external locus of control and an internal locus of control. Yes, you can have dialogue and discourse with others, but that self-valuation must be running through you constantly. It must be like a self-generating mechanism where it is your internal locus of control and you've got that self-reliance, and it's not determined by an outcome of what another person says, does, or whatever. You always still have that kind of positive feel-good feeling within. It's still like a sense of security that no matter what, you're not affected by them. So it's to be relatively unaffected, a thicker skin, but it's really more of etheric boundary. So it's more of a personal space that generates and emanates around you. So it's a feeling that you could almost hold your goodness in the air, like you were holding, like a 6-year-old child. You've got the feeling of their preciousness in their hands. That is your self-esteem. It's to say, this is me, and you can kind of hold your self-esteem in your hands and protect it at the same time. And it's just like, when you ride, when, you see, what is that Disney film, Hakuna Matata, when he's kind of rising up that little baby lion, that is like your self-esteem. It's like holding up that lion that is the king, that baby little king within you. Not that you're a predator, but that sort of feeling of being sort of a king of your own kingdom, or, that you've got the shepherd is within. The shepherd is not the narcissist. The shepherd is within you. It is within you. That big shepherd staff. It's so very interesting, the shape of it. It's kind of like a hook going like this. And that's meant to really, they feel that it really kind of mimics like the eyes, and then the mind's eye, and then your spinal column, like your central nervous system. You really do have that shepherd's hook within. You are, you herd your own flock, and your flock is like your own emotions, if you will. So you got to kind of herd things and keep it together. And if another man's herds, come and try to blend with yours and say, oh, look, we're bigger together, and then they take all yours away, that ain't fair. So The red flag, this is just a little bit of a discussion of the red flags of the narcissist, the malignant narcissist, or the psychopath, and really how to heal them, how to identify, but how to kind of take your power back. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.